Rabbi Shulman, thank you so much for coming to speak.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with the story. And the story is in honor of, I'm from Cleveland originally. And Cleveland, I always like to say that when you grow up in Cleveland, you really appreciate what it means to be the member of an oppressed people. So tonight, Cleveland is playing in the World Series. Quite I'm not sure what to say even. But I'll tell you a story about the World Series, a true story. I heard it from one of my rabbis in yeshiva, actually. And he said, I looked it up, actually. I found the original paper where it appeared in 1963 at the New York Times. I'm trying to remember where. But the story goes like this. The 1963 World Series was the Jewish calendar fell out that the first game of the World Series was on Yom Kippur. Now, usually that doesn't make any difference in the world. Most baseball players don't have any connection to Yom Kippur. But this year, the Brooklyn Dodgers, which actually moved to Los Angeles Dodgers were playing, I believe, the Minnesota Twins. And the best pitcher in the Dodgers was a man named Sandy Koufax. And Sandy Koufax was not just the best pitcher in the Dodgers, some people believe he's the best pitcher of all time, and he's actually Jewish. And he said that, I'm not such an observant Jew, but pitching on Yom Kippur, I'm not going to do that. So it was a shock in the baseball world, in the whole world, because in the whole, at least American world, that, at this time, the Jewish people especially didn't talk about their Jewishness so openly. And this to, the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies in the United States, right, the World Series, not to pitch. It was a very great shock. But the truth is that most people who are fans of the Brooklyn Dodgers in baseball realize it really wasn't a big deal. Because actually, they also had another pitcher on the Los Angeles Dodgers, who was a very good pitcher. And some people think that he was the second best pitcher in baseball at the time. He's also a Hall of Famer. His name was Don Drysdale. Don Drysdale is not Jewish. And he went out to pitch. And they figured if you don't have number one, you have number two. You're obviously in very good shape. Well, Drysdale pitched the first game, and it just didn't go like he usually pitched. And after a few innings, he gave up a lot of runs, and basically they, would have no way of coming back. And the manager made the motion for Drysdale to come off the mound. He's going to replace him. And Drysdale's walking off the mound towards the dugout, his head looking at the ground, and the manager's looking at the ground. And Drysdale gets to the manager, he says, "You probably wish I was Jewish too." So we have to appreciate what it means to be Jewish. I'll share one idea with you tonight, and that is an idea I shared with some students at Yale very recently. We were talking about our Jewish idea of love and relationships, and I mentioned this very interesting thing that in last week's Parshas Bereshis, beginning of the book of Genesis, it talks about the very first marriage, right? The very first couple, perfectly made for each other. They were literally, right, from one unit. And it describes this relationship. It says, Lo tov eos adam levado, es elo ezer kenegdo. God said, look, it's not good for man to be alone, Adam by himself. I'm going to make him a helper. And that's it. He split him in half, and there was Adam and Eve. And I said it's a little bit strange because here it is, the first time something appears in the Torah, this is the paradigm of what it's supposed to be. And marriage, what's the paradigm of marriage? It's about love, cherishing your spouse, eternal commitment forever. It doesn't say that. It doesn't mention love, doesn't mention cherishing, doesn't mention, it just says to be a helper. Like, what is it doesn't seem what we'd expect. So I told them, I said, actually, it does say that. It says it exactly. And I want you to tell me how it says it. Again, God says, not good for man to be alone. I'm going to make him a helper. I'm telling you that this says you have to love your spouse and cherish them and all that. Well, where is that coming from this verse? If it says, not good for a man to be alone, I'll make him a helper, again, corresponding to him, across from him. So the answer I told them is, and this is part of a longer lecture I was giving, I said that the Torah idea of love, the word love in Hebrew is ahava. And ahava comes from a shorish, a root, hav. Hav in Hebrew means to give. And there's another word for give also, but hav means to give. You look in context, it means to give with thinking about it. Really to give in not just, to hands here, just take this for a minute, but really to thoughtful giving. And the Torah says the word ahava, love, comes from the word to give, because the Jewish idea of love is that love is a feeling which comes from a relationship when you give to a person. And when you give to a person sincerely, when you want to help them, of course, sometimes you give to somebody who wants something in return. It's all like you have a big ulterior motive. That's not real giving. That's really taking just that's, it looks like giving on the outside. But if you're really giving to somebody, you really want to help them, you really care about them and think what's the best for this person you give to them, that's what creates love. And that's exactly what it's saying. It says here, you're going to have a helper, you're going to help each other. That's what love means. Just say love, you like love could be anything. It could be something from a Hallmark card. But here it's supposed to give to each other, and that's what creates real love. And I said as well, this is where do we find this idea? I says, really, it's all about, that's what the Torah is all about. God creates the world. It's the ultimate act of giving. God didn't need the world, right? He has, he was self-sufficient already, but he created the world to give. It's the ultimate act of love. It's for our good. God loves us. How do we know God loves us? Because he gives to us. We have the whole universe. We have ourselves, our bodies. We have ability to think, ability to make moral choices, positive choices. That's God's love to us. And when we express our love to somebody else, especially to a spouse, when we are giving to somebody just because we want to help them do the best for them, that's what creates love. And that's exactly what the Torah is saying by this first marriage of Adam and Eve. Thank you. And again, thank you so much for asking me to speak, the founders and the people who run the program. It's a tremendous honor for me.
Thank you. Honor for us. Thank you very much. Thanks for giving to us.